Hey guys, Melissa Dunn here with the Melissa Dunn Realty team, and today we're going to cover 7 different ways that you can increase the chances of your offer being accepted in this crazy seller's market that we're experiencing. So stay tuned if you want to learn about 7 ways that you can get your offer accepted. Hey guys, so we know that in today's crazy real estate market that you writing a really strong offer can be the difference between winning and losing your dream house. We know tons of ways that you can increase your odds of winning that dream house, and a lot of them don't really even cost you extra money. A lot of them I've been doing for years, even in a normal market, just to make my buyers not just more attractive, but to also make their experience a lot easier and overall just help them enjoy the home buying process more. And so we're going to cover some of the most popular ways that I've had clients get their offers accepted and things that I may suggest to you whenever we're working together to help you buy your home. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing that I think everybody's talking about right now is a full or a partial waiver on your appraisal. There's a lot of things going on in the media, and I think that this extra addendum or this extra option is getting kind of a bad rep. You have the choice to do either a partial or a full waiver, or you could not include this in your offer at all. I will tell you though, when we're in markets like we're in right now, most of my clients have won doing full waivers. We're really careful on the properties that we do those on. However, if you want to win a house in today's market, that's kind of what you have to do. However, it's not as scary as I think a lot of people are making it sound, and I think that's simply because they don't understand what that waiver actually means. So first of all, there's 2 options. There's a partial or a full waiver. So we'll cover the partial waiver first. A partial waiver means that you've set a budget and you've outlined and shared with the seller what you're willing to bring to the table to close a gap. So if a property is offered at $450,000, you want to offer $460,000, you're going $10,000 over that list price. So if your contract price is $10,000 over the list price, you may want to guarantee up to $10,000 if that's the money that you have set aside. Some people, they guarantee up to $20,000. You would have to determine with your lender what portion of your cash that you'd be comfortable doing that. So you'll determine before we write the contract how much you're comfortable with going over. A lot of my buyers prefer this because they know going in what to budget for. However, a lot of sellers, they're going to pick, if they've got 2 identical offers, one has a full waiver, one has a partial waiver, they're going to pick the full waiver before the partial waiver. So really coming in with a strong number on that partial waiver is really important. The next option would be a full waiver. This is not you waiving your right to have an appraisal. I think that's what a lot of people have been hearing, and it's not that at all. What it's doing is waiving your right to back out of the contract if for some reason the property does not appraise for the contract price. So let's take the property, it's listed at $450, we offered $460, we did a full appraisal waiver. Now let's say that that property's appraisal comes back at $440. We have a $20,000 difference now. And if we've done a full appraisal waiver, that means that you are going to have to pony up that extra $20,000 to close the gap. Now, before we do this, we'll pull very, very detailed comps. I will be very involved with getting a comp package, an upgrade list, all that fun stuff to the appraiser to help you justify the price so that we don't have such a big gap and to limit that liability of you bringing extra cash to the table. We'll also look at the trends and seeing what have these properties over the last few years done in equity growth, because if the property for the last 2 or 3 years has grown in equity 5 to 7% like a lot of areas in DFW have, and that's been the minimum, then it may make sense for you to pay an additional $14,000 to close the gap because you're planning on living there for 4 to 5 years, and you think that we'll be able to recapture that after you've completed those 4 or 5 years and that equity has grown. So just depends on your situation, how long you plan on being in the house, how much cash you have, and what you're comfortable with, and how much you love the house and the location. So my second tip for getting your offer accepted would be if you're a cash or a finance deal. Not everyone has hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash laying around, right, that they can use to purchase a home. But in the eyes of a seller, a cash offer is a very secure deal. Typically, they don't require an appraisal, they can close very quickly, so it's less risk for a seller. Now, whenever you work with me, all of my preferred lenders know that my requirement is that my buyers be fully underwritten before we go look at houses. So essentially what that means is we can close as soon as we get an appraisal and title work and HOA documents back in. Typically, we can close in as soon as 2 weeks, which that's usually how long it's going to take a cash offer to close. So my goal whenever we start working together is for you to get really close to being able to close within that 2-week period to make you as competitive as possible when we go up against cash offers. Now, if you do have cash, that's awesome. We can structure your deal to where it's a lot easier for you to win. You are still going to have to be competitive on price though, because other buyers are able to close in 2 weeks. And if you're gonna offer $15,000 less than a finance deal and they can also close in 2 weeks, if I were a seller, I would totally wait 2 weeks to make an extra $15,000. So you still have to be really competitive in regards to price if you're going to write a cash deal. We also have the option, there's different lenders and different programs, but we work with a lender who they actually lend you cash essentially to buy your home. There's a fee associated with it, but essentially you're a cash buyer. It makes you way more attractive if you're able to qualify for that. And that's one of the programs that we work with called Homeward. So my third tip is, are you going FHA or conventional if we're financing this house? What loan program are we using? And there's tons of loan programs, USDA, VA, FHA, and conventional being some of the most popular ones. However, the two most common that I see are FHA or conventional. If you have the choice, usually people are going to, FHA is going to be suggested if maybe you have a higher debt to income ratio. They typically have different fees and different rates. So your lender will help you determine which loan program is best for you. 9 times out of 10 though, if you have the option to do a conventional loan, that's usually better received. However, we can get you a home with either loan program. Conventional loans offer the opportunity to actually utilize that full or partial waiver addendum that we talked about on the first step. Conventional typically is more common if we're looking at an older home that maybe needs some repair work. Listing agents are usually going to accept a conventional loan before an FHA loan. However, if you do an FHA loan, that's totally fine. What we'll have to do, because we can't formally fill out the waiver, and if you're going to go over list price, we can show proof of funds that you have the ability to close an appraisal gap, and we can have that discussion with the listing agent then. Another way that you can help make your offer more attractive would be to limit your contingencies, limit the days that you have under option period. So the option period, if you remember, is a period of time that you buy that gives you the right to do your due diligence and back out of the contract for any reason. Most of the time we use this to do inspections, bring in structural engineers, that type of thing. In a normal market, that's between $100 to $200, typically by 5 to 7 days. In the market we're experiencing right now, most of my clients have had success doing like a $250 option period or higher. I've had clients who've gone up to $650 just because they really wanted the house. And typically my buyers are doing a 3-day option period. So that's pretty quick turnaround. The key is getting the inspector in there ASAP. And luckily with the inspectors that I work with, we can usually get them in there within 24 to 48 hours. So the way that a seller looks at that is that you are less of a risk because you could just wake up one morning and decide to back out of the contract for any reason. And so if you've only got 3 days to do that, that takes a huge risk off of them. And you have a higher likelihood of getting your offer accepted if we can time that and I position it to the other agent like, hey, if we back out for any reason, you'll be able to go back on the market before the weekend hits, and you'll get all the weekend traffic. It really is attractive if we can shorten that window and or increase the amount that we're paying for that. So if we want 5 days, maybe we're gonna pay $500 for that. So my fifth tip is, we talked about it earlier, where I have you go ahead and get your pre-qualification. We go ahead and we take it a step further, and we have you fully underwritten before we go look at houses, meaning you can close very quickly. You've already given the lender all of the documents that they need. You are a very low risk buyer for a seller. In a normal contract, we usually would write a 14 to a 21 day finance period. That means that you had 14 to 21 days, we'd pick a number somewhere between there, to fully be approved by the lender. And if for some reason the lender could not approve you, you could back out of the contract at that time. What's really cool about you being fully underwritten is that instead of me writing that for a 14 to 21 day period, which is really long for a seller in today's market, we could either write it for 7 days or no days. We could remove that contingency altogether, which takes a huge liability off of you for the seller, makes you much more attractive for the seller. And you've also already been underwritten, so the lender's more comfortable. We typically would only do this if we were not doing a full waiver. I don't like to take on both of those risks at the same time, but it's another great option for you, and it doesn't cost you any money, so that's great too. So my sixth tip for you is to do a super short closing. So typically here in Texas, we have 30 to 45 day closings. So once you go under contract, typically we're closing within 30 to 45 days. Now, because I've gotten you fully underwritten and we've removed a lot of those liabilities, our lenders can close in 2 weeks if needed. And so I will communicate with the listing agent and find out, what is the ideal time for your clients to close on this property and move out. And so one of those options may be, hey, it would be great if we could go ahead and close, get this done, and have the money in the seller's bank account so that they can move on to their next property. And so we could do that. We can facilitate that. That costs you nothing extra. We just close a little bit sooner, and it's way, way more attractive for a seller if they're able to go ahead and get that money in their bank account a lot faster. My seventh tip would be for you to do a free long lease back. Let's say that somebody is selling in a market like we're in right now, where it's super competitive and there's tons of buyers out there and there's not a lot of inventory. The best case scenario for that client for that seller is typically going to be close quickly and have a long lease back, or do a traditional 30-day closing and have a long lease back. We can do up to 60 days lease back. And if you're currently in a rental, it's such a great opportunity for you, because whereas a lot of people, they have to be out of their home by a certain day because maybe they've already sold their other property, you could actually offer a lease back. And so I try to time these lease backs to where you're not paying double rent, because you'll skip a payment anyways whenever you have a new mortgage. But I try to time it to where maybe we do a 30-day close and we do a 60-day free lease back. Like, that's amazing. You're not gonna pay your first mortgage payment until that second month anyways. And so it's really attractive for a seller, because ultimately what they have is, from the point of going under contract to them giving possession to the new buyer, they've got 90 days to go out and find a home. And in the craziest of markets, we can find you a home in 90 days. So it's a really great tool if you have the ability to offer a lease back to a seller. That's another way that you can get your offers accepted. Hey guys, so thank you so much for watching my video. As always, if you enjoyed this content and you'd like to learn more or get notifications whenever I put out new videos, just hit the subscribe button, and if you ring the notification bell, you'll be notified whenever our new videos come out. We put out videos on how to buy a house, how to sell a house, tips on buying and selling, information about the Dallas-Fort Worth area, things to do, communities, neighborhoods. We do some really great property tours, and I would love for you to be a part of that community. So hit the subscribe button, and if you have any questions or you'd like information, we've got an excellent website. I'd love to answer your questions in the comments below. And as always, you can always reach out to me, and if you have any real estate needs anywhere, I would love to be your realtor of choice. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye guys. Start enjoying our area. If you'd like to learn more, click the button below.